Empowered Mom, and I am Pow Pow. So this month, June, we are going to dedicate it to domestic violence awareness. I was trying to start a project that I think I tried starting it too much last minute, but I did get some people that wanted to help bring awareness to domestic violence because a lot of the times it goes unsaid, and I've come to learn, at least for myself, um, it's kind of like when you're sick, right? And you get that metal flavor in your mouth, like you want to throw up. Well, imagine that, domestic violence, the truth, it's just that flavor. And then you end up, like, right now I'm kind of in the phase of just, like, I kept on feeling like I was just, like, throwing up in my mouth. It's like there's all this stuff that happened to me that I really don't talk about. And it's just, I'm just feeling just, it's hard. It's hard not talking about it. It's almost like, it kind of feels like this happened to me. This is a reality. Like, sometimes you just need to, like, throw up and just, like, when you're sick, sometimes you just need to throw up and just to get rid of it, just kind of like get off me, kind of a thing. So, I've been a little bit more vocal about what happened in my case. But it's one of those things where one of the biggest recommendations that I can give either somebody that's going through domestic violence or a friend of somebody that's going through domestic violence is be there for them. I know some people are like, oh, I'm just tired of hearing them going back and forth, like they break up and they get back together. It's like, it's exhausting on me. I don't know. I feel that if it wasn't for the handful of people that I trusted to tell what was going on, now that I'm going on about it, legally and stuff like that, they are witnesses to it. So as a friend, I have a friend that I know she's going through domestic violence, and a lot of people isolated her because, we don't like her husband. And at the same time, it's like, I've seen how that isolation, where you're like, that guy's a jerk, you're like, and everybody told me that guy is a jerk, he's saying this at work and doing that at work. And I was, I was kind of like a fool. I was a fool, I was really madly in love. And I wasn't listening to the warnings. People saw things and, I didn't believe it. And, that's what happens sometimes. And as a friend, you just kind of have to be there for them and hear things out and be a witness, because when they want to get out, it's going to be hard already. And it's just one of those things that can help the process to where it's not so painful. Because for myself, I was having a hard time having people help me, because a lot of people are afraid of the person I was with, and it was frustrating. It was very, very frustrating, because it was kind of like, it's not, like, I kind of feel like it's not fair, all that I went through, because I feel like I didn't deserve to be treated that way. But I've come to realize it wasn't about me, it's just the other person. Okay, so I wanted to focus on the 3 types of domestic violence, which there's physical, psychological, and sexual. I was going to start with myself. So the type that I dealt with the most, and it was constantly, was a psychological violence, and it went a little bit into the physical one. Sometimes I feel like I hear the girls, and I'm just kind of like, they had it really bad. I feel I left at the right moment, and that was the day that he was just going to punch me in the face. Like, he was so close, and I felt like I felt like I was just gonna die. just when he was coming at me, like I just felt it, and I just started screaming. And then that's when I saw my baby next to me. He was 2 months, and he like freaked out. And he was like the happiest kid in the world, and he freaked out probably because I was yelling. And that's when I knew for myself that I had to get out, because I couldn't do this to my son. Like I could not make him be afraid. You know, that's not what I want from my little JoJo. And I'm glad I left, because he is the happiest kid in the world. He's loving, he kisses everybody, he smothers everybody. He's such a good kid, and when he sees someone, and he's a sensitive kid too, like I see him when there's kids crying, he goes to them and he kind of goes like this, like, or pets them in the back. He's a really good kid, and I feel like if he would have grown up with any of the issues that my sister and I were having, it would have really damaged him, even at this age, because he's very sensitive to emotions. He's a really good kid. So I'm gonna talk about, you all, I don't know if you all know, but there's this thing called power and control wheel. And I don't know if I can edit it into the video, but we'll go through it a little bit. Okay, so there is what I dealt with was the using of coercion and threats. And it says right here, making and or carrying out threats to do something to hurt her, threatening to leave her to commit suicide, to report her to welfare, making her drop charges, making her do illegal things. So what I had to deal with in this category, he was constant. I remember when I first got pregnant, and I tried breaking up with him. He said that if I broke up with him, that once my child was born, that he would kill me and he would take my child. And then I thought, oh, I would tell him that the baby wasn't his, you know, but it didn't work out. He later just, he believed it, I guess, for a while, but then I told him I was stupid. I'm like, oh no, it's just, I was scared. And then we got back together. And yeah, I should have just left it at that, but no, I didn't. After we broke up and I left, well, actually, when we were together, he would a lot of times threaten with the suicide thing, and that was always very hard, because, you know, you love them and you care about them. You don't want them to hurt them, so just because you don't want to be with them doesn't mean that you want to hurt themselves. But I remember he threw that a lot at me. And then even after we broke up, we weren't living together, and I was dealing with my own thing, and we would try to do visitation. I remember that when towards the last time that we had good visitations, it was like, I told him, I don't want to get back together with you, like, you know, let's just have a nice visitation. And we tried having nice visitations, and every time he would bring up the relationship, like, oh, you know, and then he knew I'm Mormon too, so he was like, oh, it's not godly, blah blah with you, blah blah. And then, like, I'm like, yeah, you cheated on me 7 times, you know, like, come on, dude. And also there was like cyber stuff that he did from the beginning. Like, it was just cheating all over the place, which thank God I found out after we broke up. But then I wish, there's no wish. Anyways, so I remember it was like the constant threats of like, oh, I'm gonna call your bishop, or oh, I remember a lot of the times with the visitations was like, oh, I can't afford visitation, you know, it was like the best thing in my life, you know, I'm gonna kill myself if I don't see him, and blah, blah. It was just like the constant, you know, thing, and it was too much. Like, it was too much, and I tried working with it, But, you know, even his own family was saying that he was bluffing. And when I said, okay, we'll do whatever you want, he ended up in a psych ward. So that advice about him bluffing didn't work out. So now I know not to take advice from his family. Or if it, I don't know, but I remember how to deal constantly with that, and I felt bad because he's my son's dad, and I grew up without a dad, so I really was hoping for him to kind of get his mind together, because when we were together, like, he already told me, like, that he might have a personality disorder and this and that. It wasn't when we started going out, it was when I was already really pregnant and about to have Joe that we started talking. You know, so he was saying, oh, I'm sorry, I think it's because I have personality disorder. And he tried to go get help, but he really wasn't good at going back. And I don't know, it was really weird and iffy. He was not telling me a lot of stuff, so I'm not really sure how that went for him. But when he once went to psych ward, though, he got diagnosed and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just what he has. It's a borderline personality. So they either really care about you or they really hate you. And I remember when we were together, it was like when I would agree with him, things were beautiful. Like, I was so happy, and I was always just so scared of going, you know, just having a different opinion, because it would suck. It would really, really suck. And it would just, things would get ugly when we didn't agree. And I was just always scared, you know, that I would do something that would go against what he sees things. And then I was to the point of being afraid. At least 2 times I went out to his family for help. One of them, I remember I had gotten in a disagreement with him, and I remember he would just look so angry, just so mad, that I was afraid of sleeping next to him. And I remember I called his brother, who I think he's my guardian angel. And I remember just calling him and saying, you know what, I'm really scared right now. Your brother's really mad. I am afraid to hang up. Please stay on the phone with me. And I remember his brother just staying on the phone with me so patiently. And he managed to make some jokes to his brother. And after a while, I was able to somewhat sleep with one night with him. And that's when I was pregnant. And then another time, it was with, I had already left the relationship, and, well, no, even before that, his aunt, I remember she offered some help to me and Joelle, and she knows the danger that I could possibly be in. And I remember she was like, I'll buy you a taser gun, and I'll teach you how to shoot it. And I was like, I'm so scared I'm gonna end up shooting myself. Cause, oh man. And I feel so stupid saying this out loud, just because I shouldn't have had to feel that I needed somebody else to intervene in order for my relationship to be safe. I shouldn't have to have somebody else there for me to feel like, I don't know, like, how that is even love. I love him so much, yet I need his brother or somebody there to make sure that nothing happens to me because I want to be there. That makes no sense. And I hope you guys can hear this, that it makes no sense at all. And that was really, really hard. Really, really hard. It was like I was always walking on eggshells. You know, I was trying to figure out, I isolated myself from my friends because whenever we would break up, he would be like, oh, well, if we break up, I'm going to go to so-and-so's house and, I'm going to beat him up, or I'm going to beat up your cousin, or I'm going to beat up your uncle. And, like, my uncle's the sweetest guy ever. Like, it sucked. And I just ended up just isolating myself because I felt the less people I had around me, then the less people he can say he can bother whenever we broke up. And it ended up with me pretty much leaving all my friends. I left all my friends and my family so that they wouldn't be, it's kind of stupid now I think about it. It's like, well, why I should have noticed something when I was leaving all my friends so that he wouldn't threaten me with them. Like, right now I'm thinking, and I'm like, I'm so stupid. It doesn't make sense, but in my head, it did. So then there was like the using intimidation, and he always, I know he told me before, that, yeah, that he once had one of his ex-girlfriends get beat up by another girl. And one time he threatened me with that. Oh yeah, well, I know I can't touch you, but, I could always get somebody else to do it for me. And it was just like, he has like this really, when he's mad, like he has like this angry kind of it's like a switch. It's just kind of like I'm sure if he would be mad enough, like he would kill me. And I have no doubt about that. And that's one of the things like I always have in the back of my head. And I hate that. I hate the fact that I feel that if he ever gets enough mad at me, like he will kill me. And that's something I always have to worry about, and I'm always trying to be, careful, which I shouldn't. And I feel like even without that fear, I've always been a fair person to him. Always been a fair person. That's who I am. And it just sucks to know that he doesn't play fair. It just kind of breaks any kind of really good image that I had of him. It just throws it out the window, and it sucks. But in a way, it's better because then it's kind of like easier. I remember, yeah, that's fine. And this is using emotional abuse, putting her down, making her feel bad about herself, calling her names, making her think she's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating her, making her feel guilty. Yeah. I remember he used to say that my family didn't love me. A lot. And I actually got to a point to where I believed it. But now that I'm out of it, my family loves me. It's just, I know that they were mad that I stayed with him. And that's what their problem was that I was with him. But they don't hate me. And that's another thing that I've learned is all the people that I separated myself with, once I broke up, I was just kind of like, I'm by myself. I have nobody. I just felt just so alone. And I always felt like, you know what, everybody hates me. It is what it is. But as I've come to see, people still love me. It was just that they weren't happy with the choice that I made to stay with him. And that's why I say, if you have a friend that's going through domestic violence, please don't leave them. You don't have to be like, oh, yay, happy you guys got back together. But be there and listen to them, because one day they might need you. And I've been blessed with the friends that have come around and been like, I'm here for you. And there's some that never left my side, and I thank them for that. I'm really thankful for that. That they continue to seek me, even though sometimes I isolate myself, because it's hard to get out of that mentality of trying to protect everybody else, because that's how I was. I was trying to protect everybody else from being bothered, so I pushed everybody away. And now I'm trying so hard to get rid of that mentality, because I need to be free. I need to be close to the people that care about me and that they want to be next to me. I need to stop pushing people away. So, yeah. I remember he said I didn't have an ass. And I was like, doesn't matter. He's used to dating black people. I'm not black. I don't have an ass. It's okay. I don't want an ass. So I remember that's something he said about me physically. Oh, and then he always used to bring up the fact that um, that it's a just when I was pregnant, he used to say that he was gonna tell my son that he was Puerto Rican because it's a disgrace to be Mexican because where he comes from, it's a disgrace because Mexicans from New Jersey and whatever, like they're the lowest, and I'm just kind of like, so imagine I'm have this baby and I'm full Mexican. And I remember I would be like, no, like, what are you saying? Like, in my whole pregnancy, I had to deal with that, the racist remarks. And then one day, I threw one at him, and that's the first time he was physical with me. And it sucks how his mentality works about it, because to him, that was the first time he touched me. He's all, I just pinched you, like I just pinched your leg. That wasn't fucking pinching. Sorry, that was not pinching. It's grabbing the calf, the meat of the calf, the meat, like the chunk of meat, and he was twisting it. And I remember I was begging him, and I was crying, and I was begging him to stop because it was hurting. And he stopped whenever he wanted to stop, when he thought that I learned my lesson. And that was the first time. And then there was another time when we had gotten a fight, and I can't remember of what. And in order for me to stay for the conversation, he held me down with the blanket. But the blanket was right here on my neck, and he was like choking it down, and it was choking me. And then I started kicking, and then he started pressing it tighter. And even though that time, I went to also, the first time I reported, the second one I did too, but that time I left in my PJs, and I went to my friend's house, and I was crying. I was like, what the hell just happened? And then I remember he called and told me to come back home, and then he was threatening me about if I go do a police report that he was going to come and get me and kill me, that if I were to get a restraining order, this is before I ever thought about getting a restraining order, but he said that if I were to get a restraining order on him, that it didn't matter because it was just a piece of paper, and that if he were to get arrested, that once he got out, that he would come get me and kill me. You know, and I was pregnant. I was very much pregnant. Actually, that time, it was about 2 weeks before my son was born. And like you would think like, and it's funny because we had 3 physical instances. Because there was another time where he like fisted me, like he was pressing my face on the back like this, and he wasn't punching me, he was fisting, but he was crushing me right here. And that was the 3rd time. And it's just it's nuts, you know, like the physical stuff was when I was pregnant. And even sometimes I'm just kind of like, what the hell? Like, my son felt that. My son felt my fear. My son felt all of that. Like, who hurts a pregnant person? Like, I don't understand. But I remember. And I think, and I'm like, why did I take him back every single time? Like, I don't get it. Like, I really don't get it. There was a time he almost punched me, and my family heard me screaming. This is when I was pregnant. And they barged in because we had a sliding door next to the bed. There was the door from the inside, and then we had a sliding door. And my mom, my aunt, and even my other aunt were smoking outside. and they heard me scream, and they barged in like that, and they were like, "Hey, like, calm down, dude." They told him like, "Calm down, she's pregnant. Like, don't do this. Like, you need to learn to calm down." You know. I remember that. It was really embarrassing, and I think it was hard for me to accept that, mostly because it's like I didn't want my family to keep on bothering me about me and him, you know? That was really, really hard. Oh, but I was saying the one with the blanket when he choked me. It's funny that we've never talked about it. It happened. He threatened me this and that. And then when we got back together, we never talked about it. After the first incident, we've never really talked about any other instances, really. Yeah. I remember when I was trying to, yeah, okay. And then humiliating me. Yeah, he humiliated me at work all the time. I've recently been hearing stories about what he said. Not nice. Yeah, he used to make you feel like I was crazy. You know, like, oh no, it's just blah blah blah, I didn't really hurt you that much. Yeah, you did. Using isolation, yeah, I was isolating. I wasn't. I remember he used to say that he didn't understand why I had so many friends. Why they liked me. Why everybody liked me. Because I'm not a likable person. That's what he says. I don't understand why all your friends like you and you have all these friends. Because you're not a likable person. I remember that. I remember. Minimizing, denying, and blaming. Making light of the abuse and not taking her concerns about it seriously. Saying the abuse didn't happen. Shifting responsibility for abusive behavior, and saying she caused it. Even nowadays, I still hear that. They, when they do that, like, I don't understand. I really don't understand when it's like, I wasn't abusive. I don't understand when he would say like, oh, you fake domestic violence victims or that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've lived in constant fear of threats of hurting my family, my friends. Are you freaking kidding me? That is domestic violence. You coming over to my mom's house when I had a restraining order and my family trying to explain to you, hey, you need to go, and him trying to break through the door. My baby cousin still pisses herself whenever she hears loud noises in the middle of the night. I still don't understand how they don't see that. And okay, using children, making her feel guilty about the children, using the children to relay messages, using visitation to harass her, threatening to take the children away. Yeah, like the whole thing about visitation used to be really hard. That's why I don't trust anyone with my kid. I'm sorry, but it's kind of one of those things where I've seen what he's done to animals. I've seen what he's done to children. So it's not one of those things where it's like, oh no, he's not gonna go through. It's like it's one of those things where it's like I've seen the lack of self-control. So that's when threats kind of don't just become like, oh, it's just bluffing. It's one of those things where I've seen. I've heard kids crying and being aggressive, and it got to the point to where I broke down. Like, I really broke down. I was like, I can't deal with this. I said, you cannot be disciplining kids like that. Like, it's not your place just because you were given permission to discipline. When, we were babysitting, it doesn't mean that you can go to that extent. That's one thing that we would fight sometimes about. He's like, oh no, I'm not gonna do it to my kids. But it's one of those things where it's like, unless you're a parent, you really can't say, oh, I'm not gonna do this when, I'm not gonna be abusive, when I'm this and that, because it's all about the moment. And there's times, when Joel, will drive me nuts. And, I have to be okay, he's not getting it. I need to explain it to him in a different way because he's not getting it. And obviously, yeah, some people feel like, that's the answer. But it's not. What is he going to learn? If he's not understanding what I'm asking from him, he's going to learn that my frustration means smack, meaning that if he were to get frustrated, he could smack. And that's not the case. He is way defenseless. That's not it. That's not it. And the same with animals, have to teach him, no, you don't do that. It's just, yeah. Sorry. His mood swings are too much, and I don't want Joel to be afraid during visitation or any time. But I remember when our visitations, and he would try to be working things out and getting back together. Even when it got to the point to where I had to make up that I was dating somebody, and because it got to the point to where he would be like, when I said, you know what, I don't want to get back together, let's just have really happy visitations. Like, I really try to emphasize that. And I remember he was like, no, but I love you, and the Mormon church, and this and that. And I had to be like, hey, I'm talking to somebody, I'm seeing somebody else. And for a little while, it worked. And then it was like wrath towards me. Like, it was just like, Paulina is like the worst of all. And I was just kind of like, I don't know. That was really, really hard. But dealing with the anger, because I feel like there is no right way to go about it. Sometimes you just have to be like, okay, you can't change a person, and I'm just dealing with it, but sometimes that works. Yeah, I already said that he's threatening to take my child away. Using the male privilege, treating her like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, being the one to define men's and women's roles. That was so funny because he used to tell me that whenever I would be like, you know what, I really don't agree with this, I'm not okay with this, when I would say my opinion about something, I remember he would be like, you're such a feminist. And like, he would just like down talk me about being a feminist because I would have an opinion. And I remember I would just be like, it would hurt my feelings, and I would just be like, why is he saying this? Like, this is really how I feel, and it was always like that. Like, he felt like if we agreed, then it was a good, opinion of my side if we agreed. But if I had a different opinion, I remember it was like, well, you feminist and this and that. And it was. He had, it's not called a big ego, but he was so insecure about himself that for him, me being, I was taking care of myself. I was well off, and I was making more money than him at some point. Except when I was pregnant, I had to stop working. But him not being the main person, the main provider, and also the fact that I would have an opinion, it rubbed him the wrong way. It would make him mad. But you know what? That's not fair, and that's not right. We're all human beings. We all deserve respect. We all deserve to have an opinion. And if you disagree, try to work something out, and not just always be like, oh, we work every day and blah blah blah. Like, not even do like no reason to go there. Music, economic abuse, preventing her from getting or keeping a job, making her ask for money, giving her an allowance, taking her money, not letting her know about or have access to family income. Our only issue with the economic abuse that we had was only the fact that he said that we needed to pay us off first. When we got paid, we paid our rents and the main stuff, right? But then we pay ourselves off. And I used to be all into my bills, but with having to provide food for us and things for us, even though we were both putting in, I was spending way more money. Way more money. And I was like, hey, I can't keep up with my bills. He's like, well, I need to, my dad taught me that you need to pay yourself off first. So he would be getting his video games and this and that and all this other stuff. And yeah, it was ridiculous. And it's funny because I'm saying this out loud right now. I'm throwing it all out. And it doesn't make sense. It's kind of stupid. My credit got ruined. But those are some of like the psychological abuse. It might not show physically, but I will tell you that before I met him, I was this kind of person that it didn't matter. Like, I used to wake up early in the morning and I'll be like, hey, and I remember people would be like, what are you on? Like, do you drink coffee? Like, I would wake up a happy person. I felt like rainbows shot from like inside me, like, and light, and just whew, like I was just always just happy and smiling and just making friends left and right, like just being friendly. Like, I loved people, and I love people, but it's not like how I used to be before. When I used to be like, oh hey, how's it going, blah, blah, blah. Like, it wasn't like that anymore, and I feel like a little part of me died. And it's hard, I was telling my friend that sometimes I feel like I have like this dark smoke or dark something covering my light, and I feel like I want to break through it. Like, I want to shine. I want to be like a rainbow and a unicorn, and I want to be that cheesy person that I used to be, and just, I don't know, like, I want to be this person that I used to be, and I feel like I'm having such a hard time getting rid of this yuck. I feel dirty. I feel like I was violated. Like, I'm not innocent anymore. Like, I don't have that. I've seen the ugly. I've seen fear, and I feel tainted. And I'm having such a hard time getting rid of that. And I've sought really deep, and I feel that the more I talk about it, it helps. It really does help. But the thing is, there's another lesson or something that I would like to share, and that is, yeah, spill it out, throw it all out, just say everything that happened to you, right? Once you're out of the situation. But remember not to get stuck there. Remember to spit it all out. And when you're sick, you throw up, and then you're done throwing up. Don't keep on causing yourself to throw up. Just be done. And then the healing begins. I think once you throw it all out, the healing will begin. The real healing. Because imagine you're trying to act like you're okay, like you're not sick, but then you're sick. You feel like crap big time. Sometimes you just, if you have a cold, you have a freaking cold, and let you deal with it. Be sick. Ask for your days off, not in real life, but if you're gonna be sick, have your cold, have your throwing up, have your diarrhea, telling all this. and then being like, because that happened, and that's another hard thing, is like, it happened. It happened. And it happened. That's another thing I think that for so many heal, it happened. And I'm sorry if it makes you uncomfortable, but I'm really not sorry. If you're uncomfortable, it is what it is. But this happened to me. It doesn't make this who I am. Like, I'm not this person that has like a little, it's still, it's kind of like if there was a war outside and you were used to being in a bunker, and then you're refusing to get out of your bunker once the war is done. I feel sometimes I have a hard time getting out of my bunker because I am scared that other people are going to get hurt. And it's scary also to have, because he had such a big control over me, and I loved him so much. Like, so imagine this, like, somebody that you love so much having so much control over you. It's scary. It's scary putting yourself out there to make relationships with friends and such, and know that once in your life you had somebody that you loved so much, that they had so much control over you, like control over your life in a way that was negative, whether it was fear, there's still some stuff that I'll keep to myself. But I think I shared a lot either way right now. I just hope that anybody that's going through domestic violence or knows somebody, there is help out there. And don't feel that psychological domestic violence, and don't let nobody make you feel that psychological domestic violence is not domestic violence, because it leaves scars just as deep as the scars of people that have been physically abused. It leaves scars also like people have been sexually abused. That's horrible. That is a major line of violation right there. But don't feel because he hasn't given you a black eye, or he hasn't killed you yet, that psychological domestic violence is not domestic violence. And it is something that should be taken seriously, because you never know when it will reach to the point to where it would either be your last day. I am glad and blessed that I left when I left, and I have a lot of healing to do. And in my process, I've learned more and more about the person that I married. But you have to be strong. If you have a kid, do you want your child to grow up feeling the kind of fear that you have felt when you were with somebody that and it's even worse if it's a parent, because imagine your parent is the person that you should go for comfort. Should you be afraid of your parents going off on somebody else, or just being angry? Like, I used to get anxious and my mom used to get angry. I do not want that for my kid. That's the last thing that my son deserves. So much better than that. It's not about winning or losing. It's about what's going to make it so that when Joel grows up, that he's going to be okay in his mind psychologically. That he's not going to be a victim of things that happen from family to family to family when there's, abuse. I grew up with abuse. Yeah. But I've decided, you know what, it stops here. And I'll tell you, my kid doesn't even know what a pan pan is. It's all about consistency. And I know it sounds like way much more work, but I know that as I'm doing it, the way that I'm going about it, and being like, hey, like, you need to understand, like, you can't be doing that. That even though it takes longer, it doesn't give you results or like that. I know that later on, it's not going to harm my son, where he's gonna think like, well, if someone's not doing something, then Pam, you know. I want him to have the self-respect and know that I respect him. And because he has that self-respect, he has to respect other people and their bubble. Like, you do not violate, you are not being violated. I need him to understand that. That's the only way that he will be able to end the generation of abuse. On also his father's side, there was a lot of abuse too. So it's one of those things, like, we have to do this right for him. Because I want him to grow up and get married and have a lovely wife and lovely children. And I don't want him to go through all this dumb stuff, because really it's dumb. Like, we shouldn't have to be dealing with this. It takes deciding, no, it ends here. So, yeah. That is pretty much all I wanted to share right now for psychological abuse. If you guys would like to participate in this awesome month, we are going to give you guys some choices. You can either, we can do a thing where you can call me and we can record a conversation on the phone. You don't have to give your name, you can just kind of go back and forth and you can share your story and just some advice that you want to give. I'm trying to promote self-growth, not hate. So I would really appreciate it if there's no hate, because honestly, I don't hate men. It was only one bad fish, and my son is going to be a man. So how can I hate something that I love so much, which is my son? And I know he's going to be amazing. So let's go the positive route, and we can either have a phone interview, and I would like for you guys, if you want to participate in the domestic violence awareness, please leave me a message on Facebook. Okay? So our page is facebook.com/TTPOM. So it's facebook.com/TTPOM. Or you can go to our website, to thepowerofmom.com, and you will find the link to our Facebook, and you can send us a message and we can set up the interview. Nights work for me, mostly because I can wait till my son is passed out, and then we can have a one-on-one. I'll record it through my software here in the computer, and I'll set up all nice, and we can start, just sharing and getting rid of this weight and heaviness that we may be feeling. That would be really nice if that will help some of you guys. And just share your experiences, and maybe we can hopefully inspire somebody who's going through domestic violence. Or sometimes they might not even know that they're going through domestic violence. They just are like, well, I deserve it. Well, they blamed me, and it must have been my fault, because he thought this, and well, he reacted. No, Just because someone cuts you off when you're driving doesn't mean that, like, oh, well, he cut me off, so I shot him. You know, like, it's funny how they wire your brain to be like, well, no, it was validated. Like, I did this because no, 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 no. Sorry, but no. So pretty much that is it. I thank you all for your time, and I know this is really, really long video. Remember, visit us at thepowerofmom.com. You can email us at tothepowerofmom@gmail.com. But so much easier. Everybody has Facebook. You can message us through Facebook, and we will respond really quickly because it goes into our cell phones. So you guys, be safe, stay positive, share strength, and to the power of mom. I love you guys, and remember, if you have any stories that you would like to share, this month, June, marks a year and a half of me leaving my abusive relationship. So I thought it was like, woo, I made it so far. You know, I finished school, and I have a wonderful career, and I'm going a lot of positive places, and my son is a happy child. He loves to kiss and smother and smush me, and it's just my Prince Charming, and he is amazing. And I know that was my blessing. I feel that, you know how God blesses you with family? I feel that I've been a good person, just person, and I got the blessing